Bon dia, Vacorja. Hi, everybody. Eimear Burke here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 198, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. And as is customary, I start with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon ar fud na crinne. Gamara Shiakon in our Jaili agus in our Jirha. Gunairi Lin Lenarkid Garmaka. Gamwich Wikus Jeev, Jehachivdaka is Spirit Gwifdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoyed the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb. That our swords be beaten into ploughshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the Holy Mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So, you're all very, very welcome here on this very dull, miserable, wet March evening, as it is in Ireland. So, just type into the chat where you're from. There's John from Stormy Slough. And Hedach is from Glamorgan, and Nimi says, here Hertfordshire, spring has temporarily returned. Oh, through her borough. Well, it's the same here. Hi, Leslie and Kevin, breezy Sligo, South Wales. Melbourne, you're up early. Well done. Still freezing Ulster. Yes, it's funny how winter tries to still hold on. Stormy Warwickshire, wow. Richmond, Virginia, Ripon in Yorkshire. Lovely to hear you. Oh, sunny Indiana, look at you. And Ishfaq from Bristol. I assume that's kind of dullish weather. Hi from Wales. Is it Aber? It's Chris. I can't. Aberdiffy. Is that how you pronounce it? Sorry about that. My Welsh isn't good. Key Hill in Shropshire. Very wet and windy here tonight as well. Anyway, we are going to Italia, and I don't think the weather is much better there. So let me introduce my guest to you this evening. It's Alessandra Dorigo. You're so welcome, Alessandra. So tell us where you're from.
Hi, everybody. I am from Friuli. Friuli is a tiny region cornered between the border of Slovenia on its right and on top with the border of Austria. So it is really difficult for people around the world to understand where we are from. So sometimes we from Friuli just say, oh, don't bother, it's just near Venice, okay? And everybody gets it. But it's a totally different kind of region. Anyway, it's useful. So the point about being from Friuli, I think for me, is the fact that it is a region which has been conquered by many people. So we've been Austrian, we've been Slovenian, we've been Venetian, we've been everybody's people and nobody's people. That's why we consider ourselves to be, I might not be the one, but a little difficult. And there's a word in our dialect which defines us, which is dibesoi, which means by themselves. So, because probably we are so used to being conquered by everybody that we just, built our own character. But still, the fact that
we have an Italian, Valeria, and she says Friuli is beautiful. So we've a few Italians saying ciao to you anyway. So,
yes.
So I didn't realize it was bordering on Slovenia as well. So it's Austria and Slovenia.
Yes.
So
I live 10 minutes drive from the border.
And is it easy to go through back and forth?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I go there and buy petrol. It's much cheaper. I go.
Okay.
We all
Okay.
do that.
So, and Carla Righetti's here because she's also from Friuli
Hi,
as well.
Carla.
So just tell people your dialect then. I know it sounds like Italian, but it has got umlauts in it and it sounds Germanic as well, or maybe
Yes.
forgive me if it's the wrong word.
Yes.
But just tell us about your dialect, because I'm fascinated
Well,
by this.
one thing to say is that we might have been conquered by many different peoples, but that is also a richness for us. And I think this shows also not only in the whole of our culture or traditions or cooking, everything is totally mixed with many different cultures. And you can tell it in the dialect. So we have words from Slovenian, words from that stem directly from Latin, or words which are totally Germanic. Just to give you an example, which I find very funny, is a word to define something you eat. So you've got the artichoke, right?
Yes.
In Italian, the
Carciofo. Is it
word is
carciofo? Carciofo in
carciofo.
Italian.
So
Carciofo
totally
in
different.
Italian. Yeah.
In Friulano is artichoke, just like in
Di-
English. Artichoke.
oh, okay.
Artichoke is just the same word.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. So for us, Friulano is important because it represents a big part of our culture. It is not a dialect; it is actually a language. It's
Okay.
called
Forgive me.
Oriental Ladin, Ladino Orientale, and so
Okay.
it is considered a language. We have a lot of books, we have poetry, and even when I write my poetry, I sometimes translate it into Friulano, or sometimes it starts in Friulano and then evolves into English or Italian, for example.
So, when you were growing up, did you speak Friulano in your home?
Yes, I did. Not much, because only half of my family is Friulano. My father came from Sicily, but we never spoke Sicilian. We never cultivated that part, but we spoke a lot of Friulano. And one of my fondest memories with the women part of the family was meeting and singing together in Friulano, for example.
Wow, wow.
That's how that's how you learn traditions.
Well, indeed, absolutely. So, your landscape then, and people have been
Okay.
commenting on how miserable and wet it is, and this is the odd sunny place here
So,
tonight.
well, the land here is totally wet today. I woke up after a beautiful weekend, which really felt like late spring. Today, I woke up to a terrible rain, and it's wet and damp and cold again. But they say it's not going to last that long. We are hopeful. All the same, one of the funny things about Friuli is that they call it the basin of Italy, that meaning it rains a lot. But still, this is a very good thing for the landscape because it's very much green. It's very green. At the moment, I live in a very small village, and this village is totally surrounded by hillside. So
Okay.
it is very easy for me to walk maybe from 10 minutes to get into a wood. And at the moment, it's and when I think about what I've just seen a couple of days ago is acacia woods, where all the trees are still only brown. They don't have any leaves on them, but there are beautiful carpets of crocuses and primroses and violets. And the smell is incredible. The smell is incredible. You don't even need to kneel down. You can feel it. The other day I was driving in the middle of the hills, and I had to stop just to smell. I had to stop because I needed the smell of the flowers.
Beautiful.
So
Absolutely
it's
beautiful.
beautiful. It's beautiful here. Should come
So,
and visit.
I would absolutely, I would love to. Is the land very fertile?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I come from a family who I am the second generation who made and still make wine. And so we have a beautiful landscape of hills. And in these hills, they are terraced hills because they're made of a kind of clay, which is very good for cultivating vine, but at the same time, it easily crumbles, also with our beautiful rains. So they terrace the hills, and then you've got the vines going all around and spiraling all around. And so it is fertile. We have great wines and very good fruit and vegetables. Yeah, it's a very fertile land.
And are you still making the wine? Have I tasted your wine? Did you give me some?
No, this is a thing I'm going to do next time. I'm going to bring some wine.
Okay. It's just me. I like to be culturally sensitive, and if somebody makes wine, I'm happy to taste it.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, my brother is still making wine. Okay, I've been an English teacher for over 10 years, and now I am working again for a wine company. And my brother is still making wine with the family name. I'm very proud of him.
Wow, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yes. So, you mentioned something about your grandmother, and I can't remember why.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The fact about my grandmother is that she was, I think, my first teacher in terms of connection with nature, because she was a cook. One of her jobs was also, she had a small trattoria, which is like a small restaurant, and so she was very good at that. And she would really use, especially the herbs that grew in our land. So she would take me out to the garden and point out to me herbs, but not cultivated herbs, the wild ones. And she would tell me the names in Friulano, not even in Italian, because I don't think she even knew them in Italian, actually. I mean, she spoke perfect Italian and Friulano, but the names of the herbs had to be in Friulano. So she would point to this and that, and then we would gather them and go home, and she would explain to me how to use them. Or one day she took me out to the vineyards, which were very close to our house. And it was the time when they had cut the vines. It was November, when they had cut the vines to prepare them for the cold of the winter. So they give them a final cut, and so that the sap goes back in, and the plant prepares for the real cold. And so on that day, I still remember, it's a beautiful memory. It was a very sunny day, cold but sunny, and there were tiny drops of sap that were oozing out from the freshly cut branches. And she said, "Come close and look what I do." So she collected on her fingertip one of these drops of sap, and she put it on her face. And she said, "That's the best face cream you can find, because that is the last drop of life the plant will give you before going to sleep."
Oh, that's beautiful.
So she taught me how to use it. And you know what the funny thing is about this? I told this to my mom, and she said, "That's funny, she never told me these things." So, they say some things inherited skip a generation.
That's right. Also,
so she never took my mom out to collect herbs. She never taught her how to play with sticks and things, and she did it with me.
I think when you're the mother, you're doing all the other stuff. There isn't that much time for fun. But the grandmother can do that. That is beautiful. Brent has a question, and I have a friend who would disagree with this. He said, speaking of wine, doesn't Prosecco come from the Friuli region? Because I have a friend from Veneto, and she'd say, no, Prosecco comes from there. So can you or maybe you can both say yes, both, or whatever. So please answer this question.
Well, as a wine producer, I think we are all very proud of our territory, of our terroir, as we call it technically, because we have strong connections to it. So any wine from our region for us is special. I can give you an example. The other day I was at a wine fair in Germany, and I saw this booth where they had wines from Georgia. and there was this young couple, and I said, I want to try this because I know they have a strong culture in winemaking, but I never tried their wines. And I tried their wines and I said, wow. And then I thought Friulian wines were strong. These are things for a warrior, before going to before going into a battle. But the guy was so enthusiastic about telling me about his family, his culture, and I'm so grateful for his explanations. And those wines were certainly difficult for me, but for him, they were home. So I don't really think it matters if the wine comes from Friuli or from Veneto or from Georgia. It matters to you because you were born there. And a wine connoisseur is usually a very curious person who wants to know about other wines from other countries, because it's like traveling in a glass.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
But I think that's what we do also when we try different dishes from other parts of the world. You travel with you travel with your tongue, you travel with your feelings, you travel with your nose, with your hands, with everything.
That's lovely. Now, these Georgian wines, were they strong in terms of taste or in terms of alcohol content that you found? Ooh,
they
really
were strong in terms of taste because they were very dark in color, even the white wines, because they
okay.
have a technique which is called maceration. So they make tea with the skins. I usually say this to concentrate the taste. So the wine is really strong and really dark in color. But it was such an experience. It was really interesting.
I think it's lovely it's, like Obal is a bit like that with, we have so many nationalities as members, people,
Yeah.
and also spiritual paths. And it's just lovely and I like, this is one of the lovely bits of my job is to go and meet members in various places. And certainly, and of course, my one bias I have is I love Italy. I have to go and sort out and check that Friuli is as good as the rest of of the other places I've been to Italy. So many places in so little time, but it's just lovely to be with people from their own lands. So I'm so glad I would go to Friuli because I know you and Carla, and that's why I would go, because I know two people from there, so that I'm not there just as an outside tourist looking, but actually being welcomed in as part, just like I do when I go to the Obad gatherings, or when I stay with, say, Marcus and Orlando in Arezzo, or Monica down in Isernia, just to experience it with Italians. And it's lovely to go to a
Yeah.
country to experience it with those people rather than always I am an outsider, but always at a distance. And it's so lovely just to come in and to have a welcome and to experience those different cultures because they're so rich. And Cara, so Nimi says, I think most interesting wines never leave their locality as they're too delicious to let go. That often is true. And also, when you get your local wine and it comes from a barrel and you just bring your jug and you pour it, and that
Yes.
doesn't, and you think, oh my, this is amazing, I want to take that home. But sometimes it doesn't travel well in a plane or whatever. That wine or certain foods have their own context, and they have their own,
Yes.
they have their own landscape in which to be
Yes.
experienced. And it's not the same taste when they're taken somewhere else. And I
Yeah,
find
well,
that,
that is a point. That is a point. And again, this is one of the beautiful things of the gatherings at Obot, for example, I have experienced in these past 2 years. And, we all came from different regions of Italy, and we all brought a little piece of us, of our land, of what we do, of our craftsmanship. And it was beautiful last time we were there, last October, to see this little market we had created where everyone brought a little thing. So there were herbs and there were ointments and there were books and there were, decorations, pendants. It was incredible. And, it makes sense that what you try from a country is always best in the country. And so you know that when you try it abroad, when you try it outside from that country, it will have changed a little. But at the same time, it will give you the opportunity to sort of sample a little of that feeling, and bring it home with you.
That is
That's
so
what
true.
we do.
Yeah, and what always strikes me with Italians, because you've so many regions and so many regional dishes. I mean, in Ireland we don't say, well, where I come from, this is the thing from the county I come from.
Oh
There
yeah,
might be some things, but the pride you have in, this comes from my region, this is the shape of the pasta in my thing, and this is the kind of sauce, and then there's like, ours is the best. I love this bit, the a little bit of competition,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, but that regional pride. We're not even talking about national pride, but that regional pride in the wine or the cheese, or if it's the olive oil or the balsamico. It's those little things, that the pride in it, or even how you cut mozzarella to make a caprese. It's like there's
Oh
all
yeah.
this pride and respect for food, and it's not. If you watch chef programs, you'll have the chefs. They're all the celebrities, and they're, look at this zucchini and it's amazing, blah blah blah. But ordinary Italians seem to do the same thing in their own kitchen, and nobody's looking at them and nobody's filming them, but they're still checking, and this
Yeah.
incredible pride in the food, and it's lovely to see.
Yeah, well, I think it's a strong feeling also because we have so many different regions, and uh, each region has its own culture, dialect, food, wine, traditions, and folklore. For example, we have a lot of stories from our folklore about magical creatures, for example.
Okay, go on.
Like we have the Lisaganis. Aganis are a kind of women which would hide into the wood, and they had magical powers, and they didn't want to be found, so they hid themselves. And there's a similar thing in Slovenia. They're called the krivapete, and the krivapete had their feet backwards, so that you would never find them, because you would look for them, but they went the other way around, for example. And there are, spilfs, which could be like tiny elves, for example. And I mean, it's full of beautiful stories, and of stories I heard when I was a child as well. You can find books about them, but the best stories are told by your parents or your grandparents or your friends. Can be scary stories, funny stories, but it's another thing my grandma told me was that when she was a child, the best place to listen to these stories was the place where the animals were, where they kept the hay, the
Do
stables,
you have?
the
Do you
stables. People
have?
kept stables because it was warm.
Do you have? Can you tell us a story? Before you do, Ricky says, I've some work colleagues like that. You can never find them.
Look at their
Do you
feet. Check their feet.
hear that, Ricky? Some sound advice. So, do you have any actual stories you'd like to tell us about one of these creatures?
Mm, not really, actually. Not really, actually. I mean, something. Uh, I am into it, but I haven't read them lately. So here you're finding me not very much prepared about this.
Oh, what a
Luckily,
pity! What a pity! But
sorry.
I do know you have poetry to share.
Oh yes, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yes, and so for example, well, most of my poetry is very simple actually, and it's based on things I see or things that happen to me. So this one is very short and it started in Friulano. So I will
Okay,
read it in
please
Friulano
do.
first and my translation in English. L'usor di stelis, occhiali il ciel, mi parte vie. E io, anche mocca sot, dal miez dal bosc. Non soi pierdude, ma un poc sturnide, come in tunsion. O sto chiatant la vie di chiase. And in English is, the stars are bright. I look at the sky. I am carried away. And I am still down here in the middle of the wood. I am not lost, but a little dizzy, just like in a dream. I am finding my way home.
Oh, that's beautiful, 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 lovely. Oh,
Yeah. If you want, I
so
have another one. This is slightly longer.
go on.
Okay. English or Friulano first?
Both.
Maybe English and then Friulano is better this time.
Okay.
So this is based on an experience I shared with friends. There's a community of friends who perform Celtic rituals in Trieste, and they created this beautiful labyrinth made of stones. And we had a ritual on a day where there was a moon eclipse.
Oh,
So the
lovely.
feeling was really incredible. So moon eclipse ritual. The moon is dark in the sky tonight, like an obsidian disk, translucent and alluring. My bare feet warily test the ground along the coils of the labyrinth. I walk slowly, every step a careful decision. The stars above us adorn the sky dome in the oak tree circle. A solemn drum gives us a rhythm to our walk among the stones. Our eyes half closed, we meet along our way. Sometimes we lower our gaze, some others we smile. Sometimes we go first, some others we give way on the narrow path. A final chant, a circle of hands. We look it up. The moon is back, shining, joyful in the night.
Beautiful. So, in
And now you want to hear the Friulano?
Per favore. Yeah.
Ritual di lune platade. La luna è scure usgnot, e è come un taront di veri neri, calus, cimiantmi. Cun pas lent e attint, discolse o chiamini tal labirint che si fa anche sentir. La corone del rol avende corade dall'usor de steli, sparsore di no. E ritmi dal tambur al colore in estri spas, intant che chiaminin tra gli spieris. Cui voi mieziaràs, si chiatin su sentir, qualche volte o sbassin la chialade, e une altre si sorridin, passin par prins o lassin la strade. O chiatin insieme, anch'ima une volte, un cercli di mans, chialin la lune, aie tornade, lusinti allegre, tagnot.
Beautiful. So I can hear the Italian words there, you know, the sound of the drum and
Some of them.
the moon and the stars and things. And it's lovely, just beautiful, exquisite. So where do you get your imas from, or your awen, your inspiration from for your poetry? What is it that feeds?
It's basically, I would say, the feelings that nature gives me. So most of my poetry comes from walking into the woods, from meeting with other people, like-minded people, and from meditation in nature. Or meditation for me doesn't always need to be something you sort of program, that like you say, okay, now I'm going into the wood, I'm going to meditate for half an hour. Sometimes you do this, right? Sometimes you organize yourself, you know, you have some time and you want to spend it under a tree or looking for a certain plants. But sometimes, and those I think for me are the best parts, you don't plan it. You just find yourself in the middle of somewhere. Like the other day when I wanted to smell the flowers. So I got off the car. I parked the car in a very clumsy way. And I just got out because I saw these flowers and I wanted to smell them. I didn't even pick them up. I bent down and I felt them in my hands. I felt them on my face and I could smell them. And they brought back memories. They brought back memories of when I was a child, of when I did things with friends. And, so the inspiration comes from a direct contact, a physical contact, or an ideal contact with nature for me. That is very important. And when a technique I am using lately is to use nature to balance me, to balance myself. Sometimes things happen to you and you are angry, or you argue with somebody, or you just care for something more than you should. And I think the person you should be angry at is, first of all, yourself, because you just should say, oh, I couldn't bother less than this. So the other day I was really nervous for something that happened to me, and there was a plant near me, and I said, okay. And I turned around and cupped in my hand the flowers without breaking them and smelled them. And that really immediately calmed me down. And I said, thank you, Mother Nature, for being so kind to me. Or, you look at a bird, you meet an animal, an unexpected encounter with an animal. And it gives you such peace. For example, last Sunday, a friend of mine and I read that there was a flock of flamingos that had reached a natural area of our region near the seaside. And so we spent all day looking for these flamingos, because my friend said, no, I think they're there. No, So we drove around for hours. And in the meantime, we saw beautiful nature. We saw horses, we saw flowers and birds. And then at the end of the day, when we had nearly given up our search for flamingos, somebody told them, no, you are wrong. They are there. And so we reached this place and we found two flamingos only, because the rest of the flock had gone. So these two were probably stray, and we were a little sad for them, actually. And it was like magic. This creature bending into the water slowly with this beautiful long beak. And yes. I heard a child near me protesting, and she said, Mom, they're not pink. And my friend turned around and said, yeah, they haven't eaten enough shrimps yet,
So where did these flamingos come? Did they migrate from Africa, or do you have indigenous?
No, they migrate from Africa, but there's an area there's a natural area by the sea, because one of the beauties of Friuli is that it is like a multi-layer cake. So we have mountains on top, hillside plain, and also seaside, because we also have water. We have sandy beaches too. And so there is an area, a natural area, and there once a year the flamingos flock, because there is like a lagoon where they find a specific kind of
shrimp,
of vegetation, which gives them actually the pink color, because it's got some iron in it. And also they find shrimps and other little things they eat. So they always flock there for a period of more or less a month in this period, because they find very good food and a very good stay.
Nimi has a question. Is it salt marsh where they go?
No, it's a lagoon. So a part of it comes from the river, and then it starts mixing, yes, with the seaside. So I think you can call it a salt marsh. Yes.
Because in from where I've seen them in Tanzania and in Kenya, they tend to be on like salt lakes or kind of
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sulphurous lakes.
Yeah.
And Ricky, who notices that his work colleagues are like those creatures you mentioned, if they leave Africa, aren't they flamingon? Is his question.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Ricky,
I love
for
this one. Yeah,
yes.
actually, we have a joke too because they're called fenicotteri in Italian. And as this one was so tiny, my friend called it a baby cottero instead of a fenicottero.
Very good, very, very, very good.
Yeah.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
I had no idea that they migrated so far up because,
Yes.
northern Italy
They do. They do
is
every
far.
year.
Okay, okay, and then they go back down again. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did your oh yes, and Lloyd says the Camargue in France is a good place to see flamingos.
Also, I saw them also there on the salt marshes.
Okay,
Yeah,
I've never
they're beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah, Camargue is beautiful.
So just your background. So what was your spiritual background? I'm interested in that. You've had the influence of your grandmother, and then how did you find Obod? How did you find Druidry?
Okay, so I think that the beginning of it all was the fact that I was grown up in a family which never went to church. They were all of them were atheists, and so I grew up like that. But I think I was always looking for something. So one day, a friend of my mom, I think I must have been 18 or 19, mentioned meditation. And, but she just said something like, meditation is good for you. We should try and do it. And then I was the only one who actually took the bait and started um, meditating. I think the first thing I did for a couple of years was with the Guida Osho group.
Okay.
And which was really good for me, but was a sort of thing which didn't really work because it worked in the room, but didn't work when you got out in the real world. You felt very good, which is not criticism. This was just a period of my life, obviously. But for me, I needed something which would also sort of graft me to real life.
Okay.
And so I started a couple of years later when I was studying linguistics. There was a part of my course which spoke about runes and Celtic folklore and the Longobards in our area. And so that's when I started getting the knack of something, let's call it magical. And I said, wow, that's interesting. So I started reading runes, and I started getting on and with a group who went into medieval reenactments. And so I read tarots and runes for a very long period in medieval and Celtic reenactments. And that's where I found my first clan and in Trieste. And after a while, my clan chief started teaching me things about, Annam Cara traditions and Celtic weddings and celebrating the wheel of the year. And I said, hey, I think I like this stuff, I think that's my spirituality. It's sort of clicked, with me. And so I had many teachers. I read books. I had teachers, which were probably, what you call the school of life, which leads you to certain paths. And then one day somebody mentioned Obod, and at the beginning I said, oh, no, that's it's not for bad. That was I would say 20 years ago. But I said, that looks really serious. And then you have to do these things, and you're alone. Who's going to teach me if I have to read from a book? And then I would think 5 years ago, some friends of mine said, hey, I found Obod. You want to try it with me? And I said, oh, yeah, it's back. So I think this is a good opportunity for me to really get into it. And as soon as I started studying and reading, I said, okay, that's for me. That is exactly the path I needed, which is giving me, pun not intended, an order. I mean, it gave an order to the riddle of things that were inside me, which sort of needed some kind of, I don't know, some kind of an, I was in the middle of the labyrinth and I needed, I needed the thread of Arianna. I needed somebody to lead me because, you know, a labyrinth is a great metaphor of life. You should first get lost to find yourself. So I probably was getting lost in too many inputs and I needed something more specific. And what I love about Obod is that you follow certain things, but as you also mentioned in one of our gatherings, we don't have a book.
Yeah.
We don't have the big book because the big book is nature.
Yes.
And so there are obviously, as there should be, rules, but then you can always be yourself, just like you were saying before. You can always be yourself and bring into Obod, into your path, what is your life, what are your traditions, what are your feelings, what are the things you know already how to do. And so for me, it was, I think I told you this before, it was like finding a second family.
Mm-hmm.
Where you know everybody and everybody really looks familiar and you immediately get on with this person because you know you've got a path in common, you know there is common ground, which is not a thing that can be taken for granted, obviously. So but all the same, you feel like you are in a cozy situation. You feel like you are, you can create easily a connection. Because what I feel this period of our life needs a lot is to create connections, to mingle different traditions. And I think in this Obod is great because with one single idea, you can put a lot of people all around in a circle and everybody gets the chance to speak, to bring his or her own idea, and they all get together beautifully.
Thank you. And that is so true because we're in a circle. There's not, I mean, I know I'm the chief, but it's a very flat hierarchy, but that we stand in circle as equals around
Yeah.
not common beliefs, but shared values, which is the interconnectedness of all things, like our Druid's prayer, love of all existence, the love of justice, the love of knowledge, all of those kind of, and it can be a very, very powerful space, an inclusive space to hold people. Tell me, how
Yes.
or can you think of times or how has Druidry supported you in your life? You know, since you joined the order, what impact has that had on your personal life, for example?
On my personal
Life.
on my
How is it
oh,
the impact Druidry has had on you? What is it?
oh yes, yeah. Well, it has given me some sort of a lead.
Go on.
Like I can't tell you I was lost. I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell you I was lost, but maybe in a spiritual way, I was looking for let's say, you know, I'm going to tell you how I felt. I felt like I was a river, but
Yeah.
this river didn't have any boundary, didn't have any banks.
Okay.
And so the river would get lost into the country. The water would be wasted. And so I felt like that river. like I was having too many interests, too many things, and they all distracted me from myself and from feeling good about myself and feeling good about how I connect to the world and to the people, to nature. So Obod has explained to me that Druidry is not an ancient thing, but a very modern thing. This is what it has taught me, and somehow it has given me one more option to be a good person.
Okay.
Because I've always respected people, I've always respected nature, and I've always loved animals. Mm-hmm. But with the teachings of Obod, I feel like this connection is stronger, better, and it makes me a better person. Because the satisfaction you find in a simple learning, in a poem, in writing a poem, or in reading one, or in sharing your ideas about a plant, about the use of a certain word, of a certain idea, is something very simple. And the idea that it works for you, it works for somebody else, and that you can share this. And so you are, and also I'm getting tangled up. But what I mean is that it makes me a better person also, because in this path you have to learn, and there are moments in which you can share things, which is great. But there are also some moments when you are alone with yourself. And probably that for me has been the most difficult part, if I have to tell you which are the difficult moments, the tacky moments of this learning. But that also has been helpful, because I remember talking about it with a friend of mine who's also in the order. And she said, "You're making it too big. It's so simple. You're building up a story, which doesn't really exist. It's only in your head." And then you see that it is true. Sometimes you give something, you give to something too much of importance. And then you realize you were getting tangled up into a story which is only your own. And then you find out there are so many people who live the same thing. So it is studying with yourself and sharing with the others. And so finding out it is much easier than you thought. And at the same time, finding the beauty in this. That's amazing.
That's so lovely. I like your metaphor of the river, that it's burst its banks, so there's no containment. So it's like, for you, it's given you banks. It's actually contained you. And the metaphor, for me, so yours is a container to hold you. And Animi says, following the thread through the maze. I like that one as well. And for me, it was a scaffold, a framework on which to build. So they do the same thing in different ways. One is wrapping you around to hold you, and the framework is that I build on that. That's on the inside. So the banks are on the outside, like an exoskeleton, and the framework is like from which to build. All of them very, very beautiful. And that's the thing, is because there is no one vessel in which to dwell if you're water. There is no one plan. If you have a scaffold, you can build whatever you want around it. And there are different mazes and labyrinths to follow the thread. And I think that's beautiful, because it allows lots of choice, and it allows us to ground ourselves And
Yes.
and again, of course, so many people say they've found a home. They're you mentioned clans earlier within Friuli, but we have, I suppose, that sense of clan is an Irish word, or clán, meaning family or
Mhm.
people.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and then in Scotland, they refer to clans, with people, families, and extended clans, extended families. But it comes from the word clán, which means family. And
Mhm.
um, so many people say how they have found their home. It's like people go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, Valeria says, for me, it's the bridge between Mother Earth and heaven. Yes,
Yeah.
it's about connecting everything. And we, with our three breaths, the earth beneath us, the sky above us, and the seas around us, or sometimes we say the
Yeah.
trees around us. And it's that when we take those three breaths, it's that connecting the three realms, which feature in our texts on three Vishwar. It means the great triple spiral, which is the three
Yes.
realms, earth, sky, and sea. And Nimi says, I never knew there were people who felt as I did. Isn't it lovely to find that? Sylvia talks about the chalice. So in a sense, that's the container. So you may have
Yes.
a chapter in which, or you may have a framework. All of the metaphors are all valid. They all have validity. It depends on what it is the individual needs, and so it's just beautiful. So, um, what concerns do you have? In this crazy modern world in which we're living right now.
Okay, so as I have been an English teacher for 10 years, one of my biggest concerns is that children don't read anymore.
Oh, yeah,
It drives me crazy. Every time I would ask, what book are you reading? They would all start looking embarrassed. And the first time I said, what's wrong with you, children? Well, you know what? Actually, I don't read. In any age, and especially teenagers. When I spoke to people from 13 to 18, 19 years old, those were the ones who really, in general, not everybody obviously, and but there were a lot of people who didn't read. I remember there was this child in primary school. She must have been 9, and she had during Christmas time she wore one of those father Christmas hats,
yeah.
and so and she loved that hat so much that she kept wearing it also after Christmas, the Christmas period, and she always sat by herself reading a book during recess. So I called her the reading elf,
Ah, okay.
the little reading elf. And she surprised me with stories, and also it was crazy because when I asked her who's your favorite writer, she said Agatha Christie, and I said, you must be kidding, she's my favorite author as well. So we spent hours commenting on the books and on the characters, and then I said myself, do you realize she's only 9 years old? And so I also had beautiful experiences with children, but one of my concerns is really that they lost the ability and the pleasure of reading, and they are afraid of books. They are afraid of books which don't have images in them. And so I was talking to them one day, and I said, the images are in the book. You don't need to see them. And what is the beauty is that you can create your own image. A friend of mine and a child, and she said, and she was very passionate about Harry Potter's books, which, by the way, I love as well. But she was actually passionate about the movies. And I said, well, you should read the books. And she said, yeah, but I am afraid they might be boring because they don't have images in them. And I said, but the best thing is that you can create your images. You don't have to think about the movies, which are beautiful, but then you can create your idea of what a plant looks like, of what that character looks like, and it's incredible. And she looked at me and she was not really convinced. So this is probably the thing that bothers me about that people don't read anymore. And I'm talking about adults as well.
Well, it's interesting. So my children were home educated. So my son and I shared a love for fantasy. So when he was a teenager, he read. My daughter wouldn't read. And I was late reading for pleasure. And my daughter, very late reading for pleasure. So she's now in her 20s. She reads now for pleasure, but that took a long, long time, even though they weren't exposed to, lots and lots. I mean, there was TV, but not the crazy smartphones. They started late getting to those. They're at that generation that that had time outside. But, and I'm very visual. I remember though, my grandfather, so I was about 8, came with presents for everybody. And my 2 sisters got dolls and I got a book with no pictures. I was livid because at that point I was able to read, but I didn't read for pleasure. And I was so upset. I remember crying that I got this bloody book with no pictures that somehow, and really, really funny. So now if there's a book and there's a film, and if they kind of come out at the same time, I'll go for the book first because I know the film will have, planted those images in me. And I remember reading Game of Thrones. I read all of them. I don't know why I was so compelled because there's so few nice characters in it, and the level of violence and everything else is high. And then I started to watch the series, and it was too violent for me. And my son said, "But Eimear, your imagination when you're reading is much wilder." I said, "No, I can jump these pages. So if there's some awful scene, like a torture scene, I can skip where, because I'm so visual. When I'm
so am I. I understand what you mean.
But it's interesting. So when I just look at my daughter now, reads for pleasure, and that's what's. I'm just wondering. Oh, Yanimi says she remember crying when she got a doll for Christmas. Okay, so but it's all got to do with. I mean, I have friends who hated dolls. They all wanted tractors and cars and Lego, things like that. I wanted a doll. So and she asked about, don't children write imaginative stories? So it's interesting. So children aren't reading. Are you a primary teacher?
Yeah, I was a primary teacher. I was mainly a primary teacher. But then I tell you, this was only a part of my experience. There have been schools. I taught in an array of different schools, public school and private schools and parental teaching, and even for a year, a Steinerian school.
Okay. Steiner school, yeah.
So, yeah, Steiner school. So there, obviously, we read a lot. So it really depends from the kind of teaching. It depends from the family. So let's say that probably the period when children really stop reading is their teenage period. When they are in primary school, they actually read because they are told to, and then they do it, and a lot of them find the pleasure, like you said, of reading for pleasure. But then some of them say, okay, I'm bored, I don't want to read anymore.
But then, I could see the things our children were interested in because they were educated at home. And then my daughter went through teenage years and was thinking, is this my daughter? What about all the things we taught her? And that's that crazy adolescent Facebook backwriting. So it's and then of course, you see, if children are read to, that's also because what you're doing is feeding imagination, etc. Or if you're telling stories, but not everybody can tell stories to kids, but you can read to them. So Sandy says, I didn't like dolls because still find them freaky. So Lloyd says, I used to collect and read the Observer's books from a very early age, lots of pictures. Diana, I love reading, but no one ever gifts me books saying, I'm sure you already have everything. I mean, I love reading, but I'm always afraid if I get into, a book that's a series of books, like a something trilogy, whatever it is, I won't do anything else. I get locked into
That's me. That's me. That's me. That's
into
me.
the world. So it's not always safe for me because it's like nothing else will happen. Just keep reading. So, but I think it's
I
a
will
great
stay up
ability.
at night. I will stay up at night to read.
Yeah, I mean, the people binge watch and then you can binge read. So what gives you hope then, if in the modern world?
Well, exactly the same people who make me desperate. Children give me hope. Children
Yeah,
give me hope because they will surprise you. They will surprise you. They will they will paint something for you. They will color a simple thing and give it to you, and a single piece of paper with a flower and your name on it is for them precious, and you as an adult need to understand how precious that is.
yeah,
That is a big gift. So that gives me hope, the fact that children still are able to see the importance of small things.
that
So
is
as a teacher, I'm not a mother, but I have very good relationships with my nephews, with my nieces, or with the children of my friends. And looking at them gives me hope.
brilliant. Just some wise words from Ishfaq here. There's a saying, reading seriously harms your ignorance.
I love that one. Can I
So
use
it's,
it?
yes, I'm sure, absolutely. Sandy says, I loved books though. I've piles of them and give some away, but others seem to wander in and replace them. I love books too. I do. Uh, do you know uh, what book? I mean, I have a Kindle, which is great for traveling. So, but having a physical book, um, if there's a power cut or someone switches off the cloud,
Yes,
where's your access to anything? But if you have physical books,
yes.
they're there, and I think that's just so beautiful. And I like, if I'm doing research, is like to have all my books around there, and I can look at pages, and I remember where things, because I've been flicking a page. Where if it's reading online, I don't. I find it hard to read from the screen. So it's just. Oh yeah, Nimi calls those, and little seedlings, your children, with those
Oh,
little
yeah,
pictures. I
yeah,
think is really,
definitely.
really nice. And Sylvia says, poetry is my bridge to the surrealist artists and writers, the quest for the marvelous. So we've
Mhm.
come to the end of our time, Alessandra. So any parting words before you say goodbye to our guests?
Well, I can say a word again in Friulano,
Please
which
do.
is which we say for saying goodbye, and also to say hello, which is mandi. Mandi
Mandi.
comes mandi, and
Mandi.
mandi comes from Latin, and they say it can have two different meanings. It can come from mane deo, so remain with God, or mane Dio, which means live long.
Ooh, I like
So
Mani Dio.
both ways.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
me
like
too. So mane Dio, live long.
Mani. That's, so how do you spell that?
Mandi.
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 Yeah.
So live long, or
Stay with God. Stay. We could say stay with your spirituality.
stay with spirit. Okay.
Stay with the spirit,
Or live long.
or live long.
Okay. Brilliant. That is great. That is lovely. Uh, okay, that is beautiful, beautiful. Gregory says older books have sulfur in the paper. That is why the pages turn brown after many years of living dangerously.
That's so cute. That's so cute.
It's really interesting about the power of books, because there have been times when there's been massive book burnings because
Yes.
books were seen as dangerous, and
Yeah.
uh, and that is lovely. And hopefully, I've never burnt a book. I've thrown one book out, because I don't like it. I always think books are sacred. That what do I do with this book? There
Yeah.
was one. I'm not going to tell you what it was. It was a terrible book. It really undermined me, and I threw it in the bin. I felt really
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
And and then Carla says, fantastica, come sempre, amica mia. That's, fantastic as always.
Grazie, Carla.
That's just
It's
beautiful.
lovely.
So lovely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so Nimi says, Alessandra, you have given me Hirait for your Friuli. It sounds so magical. Hirait is, what is it? Peace, love, I've forgotten. And it's been a fun evening and educational. That's from Sandy in Tintagel. So it's been such a joy. Says Pat Booker, with the Mandy. Now I have a Barry Manilow earworm. Do you remember Oh Mandy by Barry? Longing is the. So here I is longing. Okay, thank you for a lovely evening. Yeah. So thanks, Nimi. So I let you say goodbye to everybody.
So thank you, first of all, Eimear, for talking to me. It was an honor and a pleasure. And it is great to be in Aalborg. It is great to be in connection with all these people. So to all of you, I send the best of my love, and it was great to meet you, even if only here online.
Well, grazie mille Alessandra, non vedo vederti di nuovo a ottobre in Italia.
Anche io.
Anyway, I'll send you to the green room. Don't go. I'll just say goodbye here, and then we can look at the comments. So thank you all very much for joining me this evening. And Alessandra, I hope you enjoyed our conversation. So let me see when I'm here again. This storytelling circle next week on the Hearth. So I'll be back in 2 weeks' time for another Fireside Chat. So in the meantime, I wish you all the blessings for Connacht an Ari, our spring equinox, or a Connacht an Or if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. That's for you, Lloyd, and there's somebody else from, I can't remember, Australia someplace. So I wish you a good evening, a good afternoon, good morning, or if you're watching a recording of this Fireside Chat. So in the meantime, all be well. Slán go fóill.